Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! My husband and I have been married for 5 years now, and we're the only ones in our family who don't have kids. We love our nieces and nephews, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it feels like we're being taken advantage of just because we don't have our own little ones running around. This all came to a head during our recent family getaway. My parents had rented this big cabin by a lake, thinking it would be a great opportunity for everyone to bond. There were 6 kids in total, ranging from toddlers to preteens. Now, I can handle a bit of chaos, but 2 of the youngest ones, my sister's kids, were something else entirely. These 2 toddlers had some serious attachment issues. If they weren't being held by their mom or dad, they'd scream bloody murder. And I mean scream. It was like someone was torturing them or something. The whole weekend ended up revolving around these 2 little terrors. From the moment we arrived, my husband and I were given tasks to help with the kids. It started innocently enough. Sister says, "Hey, could you watch the baby for a bit while I get the other one dressed?" Sure, no problem. But it quickly spiraled out of control. We were constantly being asked to babysit, fetch things, or keep the other kids entertained. The youngest was always being put down for naps in a common area, and we were constantly being shushed. "Sister, shh, baby's sleeping. Can you guys keep it down?" It felt like we couldn't even have a normal conversation without someone telling us to be quiet. My husband and I had been looking forward to going for a hike or maybe taking a swim in a lake, but that never happened. Every time we tried to sneak away, someone would drove us into another kid-related task. By the time the weekend was over, we were exhausted and frustrated. We thought we'd finally get a break when we got to the airport for our flights home. My husband and I managed to get through security first, and we found a quiet spot to sit and decompress. But our moment of peace was short-lived. Suddenly, I heard my sister yelling from the other side of the security. "Hey, we need help! Come back here!" My husband, being the nice guy he is, ran off to help. I grabbed our luggage and followed, only to find complete chaos. My sister had dumped a bunch of bags, 2 screaming toddlers, and a stroller on my husband and disappeared. I rushed over to help, grabbing the loudest kid and trying to calm him down. For 15 agonizing minutes, we stood there with 2 shrieking children, getting dirty looks from everyone around us. Finally, my brother-in-law came through security and took the kids, apologizing profusely. But then my sister showed up, and instead of thanking us, she started barking orders. "Quick, go find some snacks for the kids. Our flight's boarding soon." I was fuming at this point. It was so unfair to expect us to look after kids that weren't even ours. An old lady even came up to us afterwards, looking concerned. "Are you two okay? Do you know those children?" "I am their aunt." The look of pity she gave me said it all. These kids weren't just badly behaved, they had serious issues that their parents weren't addressing. Thank God we were on a different flight. Later, when we were finally alone, my husband turned to me and said, "You know, I'm having second thoughts about having kids of our own." To be honest, so was I. The whole experience had been eye-opening, to say the least. Now, we've got another big family trip coming up in October. A cruise, of all things. My sister's already asking what flights we're taking so we can help with the kids again. But my husband and I have learned our lesson. We're booking the earliest flight possible and not telling anyone when we are arriving. Of course, my sister didn't take this well. "Can't you book an afternoon flight? We really need help with the kids." "Sorry, we've already booked our tickets. Early morning flight." "But why? You know how hard it is traveling with the kids." "I understand, but we have our own plans." I felt a little guilty, but not enough to change our minds. The cruise is a gift from my parents, their way of getting the whole family together. We're grateful for that, but we're drawing the line at being unpaid babysitters. As we packed for the trip, my husband and I made a pact. We'd be polite. We'd say hello to everyone, but we'd make ourselves scarce when it came to childcare duties. We even planned some excursions just for the 2 of us at each port. The day the cruise arrived, we boarded early, settling into our cabin before anyone else arrived. When we finally met up with the family, my sister looked frazzled. "Where have you been? We've been trying to reach you all morning." "Oh, sorry. Our phones must not have had signal. How was your flight?
Terrible. The kids were so fussy. We could have really used your help.
I smiled sympathetically but didn't offer any assistance. Throughout the cruise, we stuck to our plan. We joined family dinners and some group activities, but we also made sure to have plenty of couple time. It was a vacation we've been needing for years. By the end of the trip, I think my sister finally got the message. She stopped asking us to watch the kids and even apologized for how things went at the airport. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. We'd finally found a balance between family time and our own needs. And who knows, maybe one day we'll have kids of our own. But for now, we're enjoying our freedom and our peaceful, tantrum free life. I'm an FBI agent specializing in child recovery. It's a tough job, but someone's gotta do it. I've always been driven and determined, traits that served me well in my career, but nothing could have prepared me for the day my own child was taken. One day I was working from home juggling reports and my 6 month old daughter. My husband was out of town on business, so it was just me and a little one. I'd set up a playpen in my home office, keeping an eye on her while I worked. It wasn't ideal, but we were making it work. Around noon, I realized we were out of diapers. I strapped the baby into her car seat and headed to the store. As I was loading groceries into the car, my phone rang. It was my boss discussing an urgent case. I answered while finishing up. Yes, sir. I understand. I'll be there as soon as I can. I hung up and quickly got into the driver's seat, my mind already racing with the details of the case. That's when I heard a voice behind me.
Excuse me? But is that your baby?
I turned to see a woman in her 50s, perfectly coiffed hair and sunglasses, peering into my back seat. Yes, she is. Can I help you with something?
Well, I couldn't help but notice you've been on the phone this entire time. Don't you think that's a bit neglectful?
I was taken aback. Who did this woman think she was? Ma'am, I appreciate your concern, but I assure you my child is well taken care of. Now, if you'll excuse me, we need to get going.
I don't think so. I've been watching you and I can't in good conscience let you drive off with that poor neglected child.
Before I could react, she reached into my car and started unbuckling my daughter's car seat. I was out of the car in a flash, but she was quicker than I expected. She managed to pull the car seat out and started running towards a nearby SUV. Hey, stop! That's my baby! I sprinted after her, but she made it to her vehicle and sped off before I could reach her. You might wonder how an FBI agent could get outrun by a 50-something-year-old woman carrying a baby. Well, under normal circumstances, that would be nearly impossible. However, just 2 days prior, I had fallen down the stairs of my house and injured my leg badly. I couldn't sprint at full speed after her. When I said I was sprinting, I meant I was doing everything I could to run. It clearly wasn't enough. I stood there stunned, watching my child disappear into the distance. Then my training kicked in. I memorized the license plate and called it in immediately. This is Agent X. I need an Amber Alert issued now. My daughter has been abducted. The next few hours were a blur. My team rallied around me, setting up a command center in my living room. We pulled traffic cam footage, traced cell phone signals, and interviewed witnesses. I was running on pure adrenaline and mother's instinct. As we dug deeper, we uncovered more about the kidnapper. She was a wealthy widow. She'd made several calls to Child Protective Services over the years, all of which were determined to be unfounded. It seemed she had a savior complex, always believing she knew best. 24 hours in, we got a lead. Her credit card had been used at a gas station 2 states over. I was on a plane within the hour, my team coordinating with local law enforcement. We tracked her to a small bed and breakfast in a quiet town. As we approached the building, I could hear my daughter crying. My heart raced as we breached the door. There she was, a woman who took my baby looking shocked and indignant.
How dare you barge in here? I'm protecting this child.
That is my daughter, and you are under arrest for kidnapping. As my colleagues cuffed her, I rushed to my baby, holding her close and fighting back tears.
You don't understand. I saw her neglecting that baby. I had to do something.
What you saw was a working mother doing her best. What you did was commit a federal offense. As they led her away, she was still protesting, unable to see the harm she caused. I learned later that she'd been planning to take my daughter out of the country, believing she was saving her from neglectful parents. In the end, she was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Her assets were seized, and she was ordered to pay substantial restitution. But no punishment could undo the trauma of those 30 hours when my child was missing. This experience changed me. It made me a better agent, more empathetic to the families I work with. It also taught me about the dangers of assumptions and the harm that can come from misplaced good intentions. Now, when I work cases, I think of my daughter and how close I came to losing her. It drives me to work harder, to be smarter, and to never give up until every child is safely home where they belong. When I got a job offer at a tech company in Ann Arbor, the pay was great and the opportunity was too good to pass up. So I packed my life and headed north, excited for a fresh start. House hunting was a nightmare. The market was crazy and everything in my price range seemed to get snatched up in minutes. After months of searching, I finally found what seemed like the perfect place. It was a cozy little ranch-style house with a nice yard, not too far from work. The seller seemed friendly enough and the price was right. I was over the moon. During the walkthrough, I noticed a small crack in the basement wall. When I asked about it, the seller brushed it off. "Oh, that? It's nothing. Just a little settling. I had it checked out when I bought the place. No big deal." "Are you sure? It looks like it might be a problem." "Positive. I wouldn't lie about something like that. It's all in the disclosure forms." I trusted him. Big mistake. I signed the papers, moved in, and for a few months, everything was great. Then came the heavy rains. I woke up one morning to find my basement flooded. Water was seeping in through that little crack the seller had assured me was nothing. I called a foundation specialist, and his assessment made my stomach drop. "This is a serious structural issue. It's been developing for years. Someone tried to cover it up with caulk and paint, but that's just a band-aid on a bullet wound." "How much are we talking to fix this?" "Ballpark? About $10,000, give or take." I was furious. I've been lied to, plain and simple. I dug out the disclosure forms and sure enough, the seller had marked no known issues for the foundation. I knew I had to do something, so I reached out to a lawyer. The lawyer says, "This is a clear case of silent fraud. We can take him to small claims court for a portion of the repair costs." Will that work? It's worth a shot. We'll sue for 65% of the repair costs. That's about $6,500. So we filed a lawsuit. The day of the hearing came and I was a bundle of nervous, but the seller never showed up. The judge says, "In light of the defendant's absence, I am ruling in favor of the plaintiff. Judgment for $6,500 is hereby entered." I thought that was it. I'd won. But winning a judgment and actually getting the money are two very different things. What now? How do I get the money? We'll file a subpoena for his financial records. That'll give us an idea of what assets he has. We filed a subpoena, but once again the seller was a no-show. My lawyer suggested our next move. We can file a bench warrant, and if he gets pulled over or has any run-ins with the law, he'll be arrested. I tell him, do it. The warrant was issued, but weeks turned into months with no word. I was out $12,000 between the repairs and legal fees, and I was getting desperate. There has to be something else we can do. Can we put a lien on his house or car? That's definitely an option. We can also look into getting his driver's license suspended. Let's do both. I want to put as much pressure on this guy as possible. We filed a lien and the license suspension. It took some time, but eventually it paid off. I got a call from my lawyer one afternoon. Good news. The seller reached out. He wants to settle. Really? What's he offering? Full repayment of the judgment plus an additional $3,000 for your trouble. He says he'll pay in installments over the next 6 months. And if he doesn't pay, then we move forward with seizing assets. But this way, he avoids jail time and keeps his license. I thought about it for a moment. It wasn't perfect, but it was more than I'd expected to get. Alright, let's do it. We drafted up a payment agreement, and to my surprise, the seller stuck to it. 6 months later, I had my money back, plus a little extra for my trouble. In the end, persistence paid off. Not everyone gets that kind of closure, and I'm grateful I did. When I first met my now husband, I was excited about the prospect of becoming a mom to his daughter. Her mother has passed away, and I thought I could step in and fill that role. But life has a way of teaching you lessons you never expected to learn. I met my stepdaughter when she was 6 years old. I've been dating her father for about a year at that point. We got married when she was 8, but the path to becoming a family wasn't as smooth as I'd hoped. From the beginning, it was clear that my stepdaughter wasn't comfortable with me. She resisted spending time with me, and I could see the pain in her eyes whenever I tried to act motherly. It broke my heart, but I knew we needed help to navigate this complex situation. Before the wedding, I insisted on family therapy because we needed to figure out how to make this work for all of us, especially for my stepdaughter's sake. During those sessions, we learned a lot about each other's feelings and expectations. My stepdaughter opened up about her fears. She didn't want to replace her mother. She felt guilty about the idea of loving another mother figure, especially since her parents weren't together when her mother died. I'll never forget when she said it made her tummy hurt. Those words still echo in my mind. Through therapy, we worked out a plan. My husband would remain the primary parent. I'd be an adult in the home and a safe person for my stepdaughter, but not try to be her mom. We agreed on keeping some one-on-one time between my husband and his daughter, and we'd spend time together naturally without forcing it. My stepdaughter would call me by my first name, and I'd refer to her as my stepdaughter, my daughter. This arrangement worked well for years. My stepdaughter and I developed a good relationship. She became a wonderful big sister to her half siblings. Everything seemed normal and peaceful. That is until a few days ago when my in laws came to stay with us. My stepdaughter brought some new friends home, and that's when things went sideways. She says, "Hey everyone, these are my new friends from school. This is," she says my name, "this is my dad, and these are my grandparents." Mother in law says, "Oh honey, you can say more than just her name. Tell them who she really is to you." Well, she's technically my stepmother, but she's more like a friend. That's when my husband and his parents started interrupting, talking over my stepdaughter. Father-in-law says, Now, you should be more generous than that. She's the only real mother you've ever had in your life." Husband says, "That's right. You should be grateful to have someone like her as a mother." I watched in horror as my stepdaughter's eyes filled with tears. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Everything we'd worked for in therapy was being thrown out of the window. I say, "Stop it, all of you. My name was fine. Stop pushing her and trying to humiliate her like this." Stepdaughter says, "Dad, I always knew you thought mom was worthless, but I don't." My heart broke for her. I quickly tried to defuse the situation. "Sweetheart, why don't you go get ready and have fun with your friends? Here's some extra cash for you." After she left, all hell broke loose. My in-laws and husband turned on me. "How dare you snap at us like that? We were just trying to defend you." "Defend me? You were trying to humiliate her into introducing me the way you wanted. That's not defending anyone." "But honey, we just wanted her to acknowledge how much you've done for her. By disrespecting her feelings and the boundaries we've all agreed on, you'll have a lot of making up to do for this." "You're being cruelly unfair to us. We were only trying to help." "Help? You've just undone years of therapy and trust building in a matter of minutes. If you want to help, respect the relationships we've built and the boundaries we've set." The argument went on for a while, with my in-laws refusing to see how their actions had hurt my stepdaughter. My husband eventually realized his mistake, but the damage was done. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat in the kitchen, thinking about everything that had happened. I realized that despite all the progress we'd made, there were still people who didn't understand or respect the delicate balance we created in our family. The next morning, I decided to take action. I called a family meeting, including my in-laws. I say, "I know yesterday didn't go as anyone planned, but we need to address this. Our family works because we respect each other's boundaries and feelings. What happened yesterday can't happen again." I turned to my stepdaughter, who was sitting quietly, still upset from the day before. I tell her, "I want you to know that I respect your feelings about your mom. She'll always be your mom and I'll always be me. That's okay. That's how our family works, and I wouldn't change it for anything." Then I addressed my in-laws and husband. "I appreciate that you wanted to defend me, but the best way to do that is to respect the relationship we've built. We don't need labels or titles to be a family. We just need love and respect. My in-laws looked uncomfortable, but my husband nodded in agreement. My stepdaughter gave me a small smile, and I knew we'd be okay. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a start. We continued to work on our relationships, respecting each other's boundaries and feelings. That's what real family is about.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.